Kevin Harvick almost praises Ross Chastain's aggressive driving style and says that his son Keelan wants to race in Formula One. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope you're doing well. This past weekend at Richmond, Kevin Harvick had some interesting things to say. We're going to react to a couple different Kevin Harvick quotes. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel and you love all things NASCAR, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future uploads. We've got driver appearances coming up. We're always here reacting to the latest races, the latest news, the latest rumors. Make sure you're subscribed so you can be among the first to see everything. Now, firstly, some news this morning. It's Tuesday, which means the TV ratings are out from the previous weekend. Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal tweeted that Fox earned a 2.3 rating and 3.958 million viewers for Sunday's NASCAR Cup race at Richmond, up double digits from both the 7th points race last year, Bristol Dirt, and Richmond's spring event last year. For the NASCAR Cup season so far, Fox is up 16% year over year. That last detail is a little misleading because last year in 2021, the Daytona 500 was affected by rain, and that 7th race, the Bristol Dirt race, was postponed due to rain. Knock on wood, so far weather has not played a major role in 2022, but those are still exciting numbers. 7 races into the season, all 7 races have been broadcast on main Fox. Martinsville this Saturday night will be the first Cup race this season to air on cable exclusively. So if we look at this first 7 race chunk, I think there's a lot NASCAR should be excited about. This is an important year, of course. They're going into negotiations likely next year for a new upcoming TV contract, so they'll be referring to what happens in 2022 when they enter those negotiations, and so far, so good. The 2022 numbers are pretty stout. What's really exciting is that we're seeing increases week to week here and there, like Atlanta was more viewed than Phoenix. This weekend's race, Richmond, was more viewed than Circuit of the Americas. Typically, the start of a NASCAR season, you got the Daytona 500. Huge numbers, tons of viewership. Immediately, week 2 drops pretty significantly, and then from there, it's pretty consistently a downhill slope. This year so far, yeah, it's been maybe overall a little bit down, but we've had brief moments of upward ticks, like Atlanta, like Richmond. And what's more important is that we're now 7 races into the season, and race 7 still very close to that 4 million viewer mark, which is a significant improvement over the 6th, 7th race last year. Reasons to be optimistic, reasons to be excited. As we've talked about on the show in recent weeks, NASCAR still has some work to do with that 18 to 49 age demographic, needs to appeal to young fans, and we'll talk about that more here at the end of the show, because they also may need to appeal to young up-and-coming drivers as well. But all in all, I think Fox has a lot to be happy about the way this first stint of the season has performed. Now we'll see how the cable races do. FS1 this weekend for Martinsville. Now, I wasn't at Richmond this past weekend, but many reporters were, and they got some interesting quotes from Kevin Harvick. Harvick went on to finish 2nd on Sunday, but earlier in the weekend, he sounded off on Ross Chastain's aggressive driving at the end of the Coda race the week earlier, and he also talked about Formula One's appeal to young drivers in the United States. His son, Keelan Harvick, who we saw race on TV last year in the iRacing Pro Invitational. According to Harvick, Keelan wants to be an F1 driver, and he had some very interesting comments on that topic. Anyway, let's begin with some thoughts he shared on Ross Chastain. I thought this was really shocking. Remember a couple years ago, Kevin Harvick infamously tangled with Ross Chastain. At Darlington in the Xfinity Series, it was Chastain's one of his first breakout races. The two wrecked, battling for the lead, and afterwards Harvick again infamously said that that's why Chastain's never going to go anywhere in the sport. Obviously now Chastain's a winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, but considering their history and considering that just a few months ago Kevin Harvick tangled with another young driver, Chase Elliott. That one was less about aggressive racing, but still, considering Harvick's recent history, considering Harvick's long history of being kind of a hothead, being a fiery personality, I was shocked to hear these comments this weekend. He almost seemed to praise Ross Chastain for being, in some people's eyes, overly aggressive. He told reporters, Ross has got that background of just a hardcore racer, had to battle for everything he's got. The most important thing for guys like that is to not lose that desire that got them to this point, and learn how to still treat this as though you don't have a job tomorrow, and still carry that same enthusiasm year after year. That's the trick to being successful at this for a long time. So I'm trying to read into that. He doesn't explicitly say, oh yeah, I love that Ross Chastain bumped AJ Allmendinger out of the way. We love that kind of stuff. But he's not condemning it either. In fact, he's telling Ross Chastain to hold on to that fire. That's what's going to get you through your career. And I don't know, I didn't expect to hear that from Kevin Harvick. Now, he went on to say even more, and this clip is from Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports.
You know, that's important to have that flair and that fire, because that's what's going to set you aside from everybody else. You know, having some of that personality and that I don't give a shit attitude about what happens, and if you don't like it, sorry. You know, that's having that edge is something that will make him popular. He doesn't have to do anything else, just race like that. And, you know, the people will gravitate towards you because it's exciting to watch and you're winning.
Again, Kevin Harvick doesn't directly condone that style of racing, but it sounds like he's encouraging it. He's saying things like, oh, I think it's good because it sets you apart, but he's not saying I think it's good because it's actually good racing. And he says that being aggressive will make you popular with fans, but he doesn't say explicitly that driving aggressively will make you popular with him. So it's hard to read into what Kevin Harvick is saying there, but I just thought that was remarkable. He's the oldest full-time driver in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's one of the most accomplished drivers in the sport today. Hearing his thoughts on this aggressive revolution, we need a better name for it than that. I just think that's super interesting. And Harvick it almost sounds like he's in the TV booth right there. He's rooting for exciting, engaging racing. He's not rooting for the cleanest, the purest, the most gentlemanly form of racing. No, he's rooting for entertaining racing. There's that fun word again. It's spoken like a guy who knows his driving days are nearly over. Like Kevin Harvick, he's great. He's still near the top of his game, but he's likely not going to race for more than a couple more years. So this sounds like someone who knows he still has a stake in the sport for the next couple of decades, even though he won't be driving. Drivers, when they get out of the seat and they move up into like a TV role, are usually pretty open about how their priorities, how their perspectives change. Clint Bowyer is honest about this stuff. What he wanted to see when he was driving has changed now since he's up in the TV booth and he's forced to be an entertainer. Kevin Harvick owns Kevin Harvick Incorporated, a sports management firm, represents a lot of professional athletes, including many race car drivers. So he has a stake in NASCAR, in stock car racing, going forward beyond his driving career. So he's talking there like someone who just wants to see NASCAR be entertaining and be healthy in the long run. He's speaking like someone who just wants fans to be happy. And fans were pretty excited about Ross Chastain's aggressive move at the end of the COTA race. I don't know, I found Harvick's tone very interesting there, and he wasn't done. On a different topic, he was brutally honest this past weekend. Nate Ryan and Dustin Long collaborated on a great piece for NBC Sports. In this article, Harvick talks about all the time he spent around young drivers, kids, at go-kart tracks with his son Keelan, of course, competing. And he talks about how most of these kids want to be F1 stars. They're not talking about NASCAR or even IndyCar. They're talking about F1. I live at the go-kart track, and none of those kids want to race Indy cars. They all want to race F1 cars. They all want to drive the Ferrari or Red Bull. This is something that I've talked with Jim France and with people in our garage is how do we make sure that all those kids whose dreams don't come true, how do we create them to be gentlemen racers and put them in sports car racing and attract the great ones over to NASCAR? Nate Ryan writes about this in the article, but Harvick mentions a couple young drivers that KHI represents. He says he's tried to steer Brent Cruz and Connor Zilisch over towards NASCAR. And in the article, it talks about how he's trying to do the same thing with Keelan. He's trying to steer Keelan more towards stock car racing. It's just that everything that they do, it tells them that that's where they need to be. Talking about Formula One. That's what they see. There's really nobody that tells them that their dream will most likely never be reality. It's, okay, come over here and race our F3 car. I know Harvick's talking exclusively about go-karts, and there are a ton of racing disciplines that young people, kids, can enter to start their racing journeys. It's not all go-karts, and typically go-karts are thought of as being more of a pipeline towards open-wheel stuff, like IndyCar, like Formula One. So he's not talking about every small grassroots form of racing, but go-karts are still a big one, and I think we can tie this to NASCAR still. Will NASCAR one day in the future have a difficult time attracting the best young talent? I'll talk about that more in a second, but I do want to mention this other quote from Kevin Harvick in this NBC Sports article. This quote was something. Nate Ryan writes, Harvick, though, is realistic about the chances of Keelan Harvick finding his way to an F1 driver academy like Verstappen and Leclerc. He's got no chance of going F1 racing, Kevin Harvick said. We try to make him think he's got a chance to go F1 racing, so he will try to overachieve in go-kart racing. It's reverse psychology up until the point he realizes. Dang, Kevin Harvick really out here trying to crush everybody's dreams, man. I mean, the real world can suck sometimes. It is very much that. It is real. Not every dream comes true, but boy, I'm not here to judge whether what he's doing is right or wrong. He wants his kid to be the best race car driver possible. I see no problem with that, but man, that is a brutal statement. But Kevin Harvick's overall point here is that at the go-kart track, these kids are all talking about being Formula One drivers. And I know we've talked about this recently, but we have to compare F1 and NASCAR once again. F1 right now, it's very much in style, and it may be in style for a long, long time. I'm not trying to say it's just a fad, but right now Formula One has branded itself successfully as the rich, modern, sleek motorsport series. Its drivers are international superstars, and they look like superstars. Compared to NASCAR, NASCAR has very few, if any, what I'd consider superstars, even here in the United States. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is racing in the Xfinity race this Friday night, and he'll move the needle. He is selling tickets to that race. Ratings will probably get a small bump because he's in it. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was a superstar. Jeff Gordon was a superstar. Tony Stewart was a superstar. Today, I mean, guys like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, maybe Kevin Harvick, maybe Kurt Busch, like they're kind of the leftovers of that era. They were B-list superstars when Jeff Gordon was racing. Now they are kind of the A-list, and they're teetering on that superstar edge. But overall, I would not call those guys household names in America. Not among race fans, just among Americans broadly speaking. Every American in this country pretty much knows who Tiger Woods is, knows who LeBron James is, who Tom Brady is. A much, much smaller percentage of households know who Denny Hamlin is. That's my point. And if we look at the young drivers who are winning a lot of races these days and now winning championships, and I'm talking about Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, they're not superstars. They're superstars in the racing world. Like if Chase Elliott, Larson, if they go race at your local short track one night, tickets will be sold, buzz will be higher. Like they're superstars for sure within the tight-knit racing community. But they do not compare to superstar Formula One drivers. Kids want to be superstars. They want to be famous. The allure of F1 is impossible to ignore. But obviously, and as Harvick acknowledges, F1 is a very close-knit, tight group. There's only 20 drivers at the top level. It's just not realistic that a bunch of Americans are going to go be Formula One superstars in the near future. So while Kevin Harvick's approach may be a bit brutal, I think he has a great point, and I'm glad he's bringing this up with NASCAR, and it sounds like he's even tried to bring it up with IndyCar, because I do think this is going to more directly affect IndyCar in the near future because they share more similarities with Formula One. But I'm glad that he's trying to have these conversations, and hopefully something productive comes out of them. Racing in NASCAR is still seen as the end goal for many young drivers in America, but as time goes on, that allure of Formula One, the ritzy glitzy, glamorous life it seems to represent, that could eventually cut into the American talent pool. NASCAR needs to get younger. I hope it appeals to young, talented drivers more and more. Just wanted to talk about Kevin Harvick's statement a little bit there. A couple really interesting articles. Again, a lot of credit to Nate Ryan and Dustin Long. Really interesting NBC Sports piece. I'll link that down below if you want to read the full thing. Those are my quick thoughts and reactions to Harvick's statements. Share yours down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future uploads. And as always, a big thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. I couldn't do the show without your tremendous support every single month. I greatly appreciate it. We'll be back very soon, like I promised. We got some driver appearances on the show here very soon. And I will be at Martinsville this weekend for the first time ever, so expect some content coming out of there as well. Appreciate all of your support. I'll see you again very soon.